Rain hammered the road so hard, it sounded like thousands of tiny stones hitting the pavement. Daniel drove slowly, trying to see through the blurry windshield. He had worked a long shift, and all he wanted was to get home, change into dry clothes, and check on his daughter. She was probably waiting by the window, like she always did when he came home late. As he turned onto the quiet stretch of road near the old bridge, his headlights caught something unexpected. At first, he thought it was just shadows, or maybe a broken sign. But as he got closer, he saw a woman standing on the side of the road with a young boy beside her. They were soaked from head to toe, shivering, and holding each other like they were trying to stay upright. Daniel slowed down and pulled over. He rolled down the window halfway. "Hey, are you both all right? Do you need help?" he asked. The woman looked up. Her face was pale. Her hair stuck to her forehead from the rain, and she held the boy close, like she was afraid he would disappear. She seemed scared to speak, but forced out a small voice. "Please, we don't have anywhere to go." Daniel looked around. There were no cars, no houses nearby, no one except them. The boy looked no older than 6 or 7. His clothes were wet, and his small hands were shaking. "Get in," Daniel said before he even thought twice. "You'll get sick out here." The woman hesitated, as if she wasn't sure she should trust him. But when the boy coughed, she nodded and opened the back door. Daniel turned the heater on full blast. "I'm Daniel," he said gently as he started driving again. "What's your name?" The woman pressed her hands together, like she was trying to calm herself. "I'm Lena," she said softly. "And this is my son, Eli." Daniel gave a small nod. "Nice to meet you both. Don't worry. You're safe now." Lena didn't answer. She stared out the window, and Daniel noticed she kept her arms wrapped tightly around her chest, as if she was trying to hide something. The boy sat quietly, leaning against his mother. For a few minutes, the car was silent except for the rain and the sound of the heater blowing warm air. Daniel wanted to ask 100 questions. Why were they out here? Where was their home? Did someone abandon them? But he didn't want to scare them. He understood what fear looked like. He had seen it in the mirror after his wife passed away. When they reached Daniel's small house, he parked the car and turned to them. "You can come inside. I'll get you both some towels and warm clothes. My daughter's asleep now, but she won't mind." Lena looked surprised. "We don't want to bother you," she whispered. "You're not bothering me," Daniel said. "Come on inside before you freeze." They stepped into the house carefully, almost as if they thought they didn't belong. Daniel quickly grabbed a stack of towels and a blanket. "Here," he said, handing them over. "I'll get you something warm to drink." Eli's lips were blue. Daniel poured some warm milk and handed it to him. The boy held the cup with both hands and took small sips. "Thank you," Lena said, her voice trembling. We didn't know where else to go." Daniel didn't want to push, but he could tell something terrible had happened. There were faint marks on her face, nothing extreme, but enough to show she had been crying for hours. The sleeves of her shirt were dirty and torn. "It's okay," Daniel said gently. "Rest for now. You can explain later when you're ready." Lena looked at him like she didn't understand why he was being kind. "Why are you helping us? You don't even know us." Daniel shrugged lightly. "Because someone helped me once when I needed it. And because you're standing in my home on a rainy night with nowhere to go. I'd want someone to do the same for my daughter." Her eyes softened, and for the first time, she looked like she might cry again, but not from fear. From relief, Daniel set up a spare mattress in the living room. His daughter's stuffed toys were scattered nearby, giving the room a warm, lived-in feeling. Eli's eyes wandered to the toys. "You can pick one if you want," Daniel said to him. My daughter has a whole collection. Eli picked a soft yellow bear and hugged it quietly. Lena watched him with a mixture of love and sadness. Say thank you, she whispered to him. Thank you, Eli said softly. Daniel smiled. You're welcome. After making sure they had blankets, he stepped away to give them space. But before he went down the hallway, he heard Lena whisper something to her son. We're safe for tonight, sweetheart. We're safe here. Daniel paused, hearing her words. He didn't know their story yet, but he could feel how heavy their fear was. When he went to check on his daughter, she was already awake, sitting up on her bed, rubbing her eyes. Dad, you're home late. Who was that at the door? Daniel sat beside her. Just some people who needed help. A mom and her little boy. They'll stay tonight. His daughter nodded sleepily. Okay, they can stay. He kissed her forehead. Go back to sleep. After she drifted off, Daniel returned to the living room. Lena and Eli were settled under the blankets, their clothes drying near the heater. If you need anything, just knock on my door, Daniel told them. Lena nodded. We really are grateful. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to, he said. He turned off the lights, leaving the small lamp near them glowing softly. As he walked away, he heard Lena take a deep, shaky breath, like she was letting go of something she had been holding for too long. Later that night, when the rain finally softened, Daniel sat awake in his room. He thought about the look on Lena's face, the fear, the confusion, the exhaustion. He had seen people in trouble before, but there was something different here. Something deeper. He wondered who she had run from, and why she had been left on the side of the road on such a terrible night. But one thing he knew for sure. She hadn't been lying when she said she had nowhere to go. The next morning, Daniel woke up early. The house was quiet. When he stepped into the living room, he saw Lena standing near the kitchen, trying to make breakfast with whatever she could find. You don't have to do that, Daniel said. She jumped a little, startled. Sorry, I just wanted to help. You're my guests, he said kindly. Sit down. I'll cook something. But Lena shook her head. You gave us your home, your warmth, everything. Please let me do this much. Daniel didn't argue. He simply nodded and let her continue. Eli was still asleep on the mattress, holding the yellow bear against his chest. Lena moved carefully in the kitchen, as if she expected someone to shout at her for doing something wrong. Daniel noticed the way she kept glancing at the window, the way she kept rubbing her fingers together when she was nervous. He softened his voice. You don't have to look so worried. No one is coming here to bother you. Lena didn't respond at first. Then she whispered, You don't know who you brought into your home, Daniel. I don't want trouble to come to your doorstep. Daniel frowned a little. You're not trouble. You're just someone who needs help. She lowered her head. I hope that's true. He wanted to ask again what happened, but he saw in her eyes that she wasn't ready to talk. So he let silence fill the room instead. When breakfast was ready, Eli woke up and sat at the table with sleepy eyes. He looked more relaxed than he had the night before. He even smiled faintly when Daniel poured honey on his toast. Do you like it? Daniel asked. Eli nodded slowly. It's good. Lena smiled at her son. See? I told you it would be okay here. Daniel felt a warm feeling settle in his chest. It had been a long time since his house felt this full, this alive. But behind Lena's soft smile, Daniel could still see pain. Deep pain. And a fear she was trying very hard to hide. He didn't know her story yet, but he had a feeling it was only the beginning. The morning sun filled the house with a soft, golden glow. It was the kind of calm light that made everything seem peaceful, even if the world outside wasn't. Daniel sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, watching Lena move quietly as she washed the dishes from breakfast. She worked gently, almost too carefully, as if afraid she might break something or do something wrong. Eli sat on the floor with the yellow bear in his lap, drawing something on a scrap piece of paper that Daniel's daughter had left in the living room. His small hand moved slowly, but Daniel could tell the boy liked having something to focus on. Daniel's daughter came out of her room, still in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. When she saw Eli, she walked over and sat beside him. "What are you drawing?" she asked with a sleepy smile. Eli shrugged. "A house." She looked closer. "Whose house?" He hesitated. "I don't know. Just a house." She nodded, as if she understood. "You can draw mine too if you want." For the first time since he'd picked them up, Daniel saw a tiny spark of excitement in Eli's eyes. He slid the paper toward her, and the two kids sat together, sharing crayons. It felt natural, almost like they had known each other for longer than a day. Lena watched them and breathed out softly, a small smile forming on her lips. She looked relieved to see her son acting like a normal child, even if just for a moment. Daniel stood and walked toward her. "You don't have to clean everything," he said. "Really, sit down for a while." She wiped her hands on a towel. "I just want to help. You've already done so much." "You're a guest," Daniel said. "You don't owe me anything." Lena lowered her eyes. "I know. It's just, it feels strange to be in a place where people are kind." Daniel didn't say anything right away. He didn't want to push her to explain what she meant, but the ache in her voice stayed with him. A moment later, his daughter ran to him. "Dad, can Eli stay for lunch too?" Daniel smiled. "Of course he can. They're staying as long as they need to." Lena opened her mouth as if she wanted to protest, but she didn't. Instead, she just nodded and gave her son a soft look. As the morning went on, Daniel tried to keep the house feeling normal. He made tea for Lena and took it to the small table. She hesitated before sitting down, like she didn't want to take something she hadn't earned. "Please," Daniel said with a gentle tone. "You don't have to be afraid here." Lena wrapped her hands around the warm cup. "I'm not afraid of you," she said quietly. I don't want to make trouble." "Trouble?" Daniel repeated. "Lena, I don't think you could make trouble even if you tried." She stared into the tea, her voice barely above a whisper. "You don't know what I've been through, or who I was living with." Daniel leaned against the counter and folded his arms. "Then tell me when you're ready. Until then, just breathe. You and Eli are safe." Her eyes filled with emotion, but she blinked quickly, pushing it back down. "Thank you," she said again, the words sounding too small for the weight they carried. Around noon, Daniel made lunch. He kept the food simple: rice, vegetables, and grilled chicken, but the kids loved it. They both ate happily, talking about drawings and silly stories. Lena ate slowly, taking small bites, as if she wasn't used to sitting at a family table. Daniel noticed she kept glancing at the window, always checking the outside like someone might be watching. It made him wonder what had happened to her that caused so much fear. After lunch, the kids went to play with toys in the living room. Daniel sat at the table with Lena again. He cleared his throat and spoke gently. "Lena, you don't have to tell me everything, but I just want to know, are you in danger?" Her hands tightened around her cup. "We were," she said softly, "but maybe not anymore." "I hope not." Daniel waited quietly. Finally, Lena took a shaky breath. "My husband passed away 2 years ago," she began. "His family, they never liked me. They thought I didn't deserve him." Daniel listened closely, not interrupting. "When he died, things got worse," Lena said. "They treated us like we were nothing. They made it clear every day. But I stayed because where else could I go? And I thought Eli should know his father's family." Daniel felt a tightness in his chest. He had seen grief before. but it sounded like she had lived with it every day. It got really bad last week, she continued. They wanted to take Eli away from me. They said he should be raised by them, that I didn't belong in their home. Daniel frowned deeply. Why would they want to take your son? Lena looked down again. I'll tell you that later. It's complicated. He nodded. Take your time. She lifted her eyes, and for the first time, he saw a spark of fear that went deeper than anything she'd said aloud. I'm scared they'll find us, Daniel. They have money, connections, people who do what they say. Daniel leaned forward. Did they hurt you or Eli? She shook her head quickly. Not Eli, never Eli. Daniel felt a wave of relief. Good, as long as he wasn't harmed. But Lena's silence told him she wasn't saying everything got to ease the tension. Daniel changed the subject. He stood up. Come on. Let's take the kids to the park. They've been cooped up all day. A little fresh air will help. Lena hesitated. The park? But what if? Nothing will happen, Daniel said gently but firmly. You're with me. And no one out there even knows you're here. She took a moment, then nodded slowly. They walked to the small neighborhood park, just 2 blocks away. The sun had dried most of the leftover rain, leaving the air cool and fresh. The kids ran ahead to the swings, laughing as the wind brushed their faces. Daniel watched them with a warm smile. See? They're already getting along. Lena watched too, her eyes softening. He hasn't played like this in a long time. Daniel sat on the bench. Kids deserve to be happy. That's all. Lena sat a small distance away. She wasn't tense anymore, but she still held her hands together on her lap. After a while, Daniel's daughter called out, Dad, watch how high we can go. Daniel laughed. Not too high. I don't want to carry anyone home with a sprained ankle. Eli giggled, something Daniel hadn't heard from him before. But then, as the kids played, Lena suddenly stiffened. Daniel followed her gaze. A dark car was slowly driving past the edge of the park. Not speeding. Not stopping. Just passing, but slow enough to make someone notice. Daniel sensed her fear immediately. Lena, he said quietly, do you recognize that car? She swallowed hard. I'm not sure. It looks like... She didn't finish. Daniel stood up calmly. Let's take the kids home. Just to be safe. They gathered the children without alarming them. Daniel kept his voice light and cheerful, but inside he felt a tightening worry. Something wasn't right. When they got back to the house, Lena looked shaken. She sat on the edge of the couch, holding Eli close. Daniel knelt beside her. It's okay. You're here. They didn't see you. Are you sure? She whispered. Yes, he said firmly. I wouldn't let anything happen to you or Eli. Her eyes filled with tears. But she looked away quickly, not wanting the kids to see Dot as the afternoon settled. Daniel gave the kids a snack and put on a gentle cartoon. He walked back to Lena, who sat quietly at the dining table. You're not alone, Daniel said softly. Not anymore. Lena closed her eyes, as if those words reached something deep inside her. When evening came, Daniel made dinner. The 4 of them sat together like a small family. The kids talked, laughed, and passed the bowls to each other. Even Lena relaxed a little. After dinner, Eli fell asleep on the couch, still holding the yellow bear. Daniel carried him to the mattress gently, making sure he was warm. Lena watched with soft eyes. He trusts you, she whispered. Daniel glanced at her. I'm glad he does. He deserves to feel safe. She nodded slowly. You've done more for us than anyone has in years. Daniel smiled gently. It's nothing, Lina. Anyone would do the same. She shook her head. No, not anyone. The night grew quiet. The house felt peaceful. But beneath that peace, Daniel knew something bigger was coming. Something hidden in Lena's past. Something that might explain her fear. And why that car had made her panic. Not for now, though. All he cared about was this: Lena and Eli were safe under his roof, and he would keep it that way. The next morning arrived quietly, with a soft breeze coming through the kitchen window. But the calm outside didn't match the tension sitting quietly inside the house. Lena barely slept. Daniel noticed the moment he stepped into the kitchen and saw her already awake, sitting at the table with her hands wrapped around a cup of warm water instead of tea. She looked as if her mind had been running all night. Daniel tried to keep his voice gentle. "Morning, Lena. Did you get any rest?" She shook her head slightly. "A little. Not much." He took a seat across from her. "Is it because of the car we saw yesterday?" Lena stared down at the table for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. "I thought I left everything behind. But seeing that car, it scared me. It reminded me of them." Daniel waited. He didn't want to push her, but he sensed she was finally ready to explain. Before she spoke, Eli walked into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. Daniel smiled at him. "Morning, buddy. Breakfast?" Eli nodded sleepily. Daniel placed a bowl of warm oatmeal in front of him, adding a drizzle of honey. The boy's face brightened. Lena watched him eat with so much care in her eyes. She waited until Eli finished his food and went to play quietly in the living room. Only then did she take a deep breath. "Daniel," she began softly, "you've been nothing but kind to us. So I think you deserve to know the truth. You're letting us stay in your home, and you have a right to understand who we are and why we ran." Daniel nodded. "You don't have to tell me anything that hurts, but I'm here to listen." Lena looked down, twisting her fingers nervously. "My husband, he came from a very wealthy family, more wealthy than I ever understood when I met him. He was gentle, humble, nothing like the rest of them. When we got married, his family didn't approve. They kept saying I wasn't the right kind of woman. I didn't come from money. I didn't have their lifestyle or connections. But he loved me, and we were happy until he got sick." Her voice tightened. "He passed away before Eli was even old enough to understand what happened. And after that, everything changed. My husband's parents blamed me. They said I was the reason they lost their son. They said I didn't deserve anything he left behind." Daniel listened closely, his heart aching for her. "But the truth is," Lena continued, "my husband left everything to Eli. Everything. His shares, his inheritance. All of it was written in a trust for our son. I didn't know the details at first. I only found out after the lawyer contacted me." Daniel blinked in surprise. "So Eli—" She nodded slowly. "Yes, my son is legally the successor to a very large family business. One day he will inherit more than I can ever imagine. And that's why his grandparents want him. Not because they love him. Not because they want to raise him." Her eyes filled with tears she quickly wiped away. "They want him because he's the heir. They want control over him, over what he owns, over what he will own." Daniel exhaled slowly. "That's why they were trying to take him from you." "Yes," she whispered. "They said I wasn't fit to raise him. They said I was too ordinary for their world. They tried everything: pressure, threats, even offering to buy me out. They told me to leave and give them the child. And when I refused, they became worse." Daniel felt his chest tighten with anger. "Lena, I'm so sorry you had to go through that." She looked up with tired eyes. "When they realized I would never give up Eli, they told me I had no place in their home anymore. They made it clear I wasn't welcome. I took Eli and left before things got even worse. I didn't have a real plan. I just knew we had to be far away. Daniel leaned forward. You did the right thing. You protected your son. She sighed. I'm still scared they'll find us. They have money, people who work for them, cars like the one we saw yesterday. I don't know if it was theirs or not, but it felt too familiar. Daniel thought for a moment. Even if it was them, you're not alone anymore. And they can't just take Eli from you. Not legally. Not without a long fight. Lena shook her head. They don't follow rules when they want something. Daniel reached across the table and set his hand near hers, not touching, just close enough to show support. I promise you, Lena, you and Eli are safe here. I won't let anyone hurt either of you. Her eyes softened, and she whispered, Thank you. Just then, Daniel's daughter came running out of her room with a bright smile. Can Eli play outside with me? She asked. I want to show him my scooter. Daniel glanced at Lena. She hesitated, but nodded slowly. Stay close by, she said. The kids ran out to the small front yard. Their laughter drifted into the house. A sound that seemed to ease some of the heaviness settled around Lena. Daniel stood near the window, watching them. They look happy, he said. They do, Lena replied softly. Eli hasn't laughed like that in months. For a few minutes, they simply watched the children play riding the scooter, chasing each other, sharing giggles. But then Lena stiffened again. Daniel followed her gaze. A car was driving slowly down the street. A different one this time. Not black-silver, but again, slow. Too slow to be casual. Daniel's jaw clenched. I'll be right back. He stepped out to the yard, pretending to pick up a ball, but keeping his eyes on the car. The driver didn't look toward him, not directly. The windows were tinted. The vehicle passed by and turned the corner. Lena stepped onto the porch, her voice trembling. Daniel, what if they found us? He shook his head. It could be anyone, but I'll stay alert. When the car was gone, they brought the kids back inside. Daniel didn't want to scare them, so he kept things light. For the rest of the day, Daniel tried to keep the atmosphere normal. He helped his daughter with her homework, while Lena helped Eli read a small picture book. The kids played with blocks and built little houses. Each moment of peace felt like something precious out later in the afternoon. Daniel stepped outside to take out the trash and paused. There were faint tire marks near his driveway. Not unusual on their street, but combined with everything else, it made him uneasy. When he stepped back inside, Lena looked up immediately. She could sense something was wrong. What happened? She asked. Daniel shook his head. Nothing certain, just, I think we should be careful. Lena pressed her lips together. I'm causing trouble, aren't I? Daniel stepped closer. No, you're not. You're a mother protecting her child. Anyone would do the same. Her eyes glistened again. I didn't want to bring danger into your home. You've already been through enough, raising your daughter alone. Daniel smiled softly. My daughter and I know what it's like to need help, and what it means when someone reaches out. So please don't think you're a burden. She swallowed hard, touched by his words. That evening, Daniel made soup for dinner. The warm smell filled the house, comforting and familiar. The four of them sat together again. The kids laughed at small jokes, and even Lena smiled a few times. After dinner, the kids played quietly, while Daniel and Lena washed the dishes together. You know, Daniel said lightly, you're welcome to stay as long as you need, even if it's weeks or longer. Lena froze, then looked at him with wide, emotional eyes. Daniel, I don't want to take advantage of your kindness. You're not, he said firmly. You and Eli deserve a safe place, and this house is safer with more laughter in it. Her breath shook. She glanced toward the living room, where the kids sat side by side, completely absorbed in building a little tower. I don't know how to thank you, she whispered, "You already are," he replied gently, "by trusting me." The night grew quiet as the kids fell asleep again, his daughter in her room. Eli curled up on the mattress with the yellow bear. Lina sat on the couch, watching her son breathe peacefully. It was a look Daniel recognized well, the look of a parent who finally felt a small piece of safety. Daniel sat across from her. "We'll figure things out," he said softly. "We'll find a way to keep him safe, no matter who tries to come." Lina nodded, tears filling her eyes again. But this time they weren't from fear. They were from hope. She whispered, "For the first time in a long time." "I feel like we might be okay." Daniel gave a small smile. "You're not alone anymore, Lena, and you never will be again." The night settled around them with a quiet warmth. The danger wasn't gone, not yet. But for now, inside that small house, there was safety. There was comfort. And there was the beginning of something none of them had expected. Daniel woke up earlier than usual the next morning, though he wasn't sure if he had actually slept at all. His mind had been racing all night, replaying the tense moment when the black car stopped outside the house and those unfamiliar men stepped out. He had watched Lena freeze in fear, the little boy holding tightly to her hand. Even after the car left, Daniel sensed her unease like a quiet storm still circling the house. He walked into the kitchen, expecting silence. Instead, he found Lena already making breakfast. She looked tired, as if she had barely rested, but she still offered him a small smile when she noticed him. "You're up early," she said softly. "So are you," Daniel replied, pulling out a chair. "I couldn't sleep much," she admitted. "I didn't want the kids waking up scared." Daniel nodded. He admired how she always thought of the children first, even when she was worried herself. "You're safe here," he said gently. "I won't let anyone force you or Eli to go anywhere." Her eyes softened. "I know. I trust you. That's why I'm still here." Before Daniel could say anything else, his daughter walked in, rubbing her eyes and yawning. Eli followed behind her, clutching a small toy car Daniel had fixed for him the night before. The sight brought some warmth back into the room. Throughout breakfast, the kids chatted happily about school, cartoons, and the stray cat they saw near the backyard. Their innocent voices filled the space with a bit of normalcy Lena desperately needed. But Daniel kept glancing toward the window, checking for any sign of the car from last night. He didn't like the feeling of being watched. After breakfast, he stepped outside to call his friend, a local lawyer who had helped him years ago during his custody battle. When his friend answered, Daniel explained everything: the men, the threats, Lena's past. His friend listened quietly before responding. "If what she's saying is true, then she has full legal custody," he said. "No one can take the child from her unless a court orders it. If they try, it's illegal. And showing up at your home without explanation is already suspicious." Daniel felt a small bit of relief. So they can't just show up and grab him? No, they'd need a legal case, which they clearly don't want to risk. But be careful. Families with that much money don't always play fair. Daniel thanked him and ended the call. He took a deep breath and went back inside. Lena was wiping the table when he walked toward her. "I talked to someone who knows the law well," Daniel told her. "They can't legally take your son. You have custody. They have no right to intimidate you." Lena stopped wiping. Her hands trembled slightly. "I was scared they'd find a way," she whispered. "They always did before. They made me believe I had no power." "They don't get to control you anymore," Daniel said firmly. "Not here." Lena nodded, her eyes filling with quiet gratitude. For the first time that morning, she looked like she believed things might actually be okay. The day passed, with the kids running around the house, laughing as they played games in the living room. Lena helped Daniel with household chores, though he kept insisting she didn't have to. She brushed it off with a smile, saying she liked keeping busy. But beneath the surface, They were both waiting for something to happen, waiting for that black car to return. By evening, rain had started again, tapping lightly against the windows. Lena stood by the sink washing dishes when she saw a flash of headlights through the curtains. Her heart jumped. "Daniel," she whispered Dot. He was beside her in seconds. Outside, the same black car was parked in front of the house. This time, only one man stepped out, holding something in his hand. Daniel didn't hesitate. He walked outside, shutting the door behind him. The man stopped a few feet away. "You're Daniel, right?" Daniel crossed his arms. "Who wants to know?" The man let out a slow breath, as if tired of the whole situation. "I'm here on behalf of the family. They want the boy brought back immediately." "That's not happening," Daniel said. "Not today, not ever. His mother has custody. You know that." The man's jaw tightened. "You're interfering in something you don't understand." "I understand enough," Daniel replied. "And unless you have a court order, you need to leave." For a moment, the man hesitated. Daniel could see in his eyes that he wasn't expecting resistance. People like him were used to getting their way with a few threats. "Fine," the man finally said. "But this isn't over." He turned and walked back to the car. The vehicle pulled away, tires splashing through the rain. Daniel stood there until the car disappeared down the road. Only then did he go back inside. Lena rushed to him, her face pale. "What did he say?" "He said they want Eli back," Daniel answered honestly. "But I told him no. And I'll keep saying no as long as you're here." Lena covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes glistening. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me," he said gently. "You and Eli are part of this home now. I'll protect what's in my home." That night, Lena tucked Eli into bed, brushing his hair back gently as he drifted to sleep. Daniel watched from the doorway for a moment before walking back to the living room. He sat on the couch, staring at the floor. He wasn't scared of the men, but he was worried about the pressure they could bring, pressure that could turn their peaceful days upside down. A notification buzzed on his phone. Daniel grabbed it and opened the message. It was a link someone had sent him, one he didn't expect. The video was already going viral. Someone had filmed the black car leaving his house the night before. Someone else had posted a photo of the bruised marks, still visible on Lena's arms, when she was at the grocery store 2 days ago. Comments were spreading everywhere, showing sympathy for her and anger toward the wealthy family. Daniel felt his heartbeat slow. Maybe this was the push they needed. Maybe now the truth would finally be out. He showed the video to Lena, who covered her mouth again, this time in shock. "People? They're supporting us?" "They are," Daniel said. "And that means your in-laws can't hide what they did anymore." Lena took a deep breath, as if a heavy weight was finally loosening around her chest. But before they could say anything else, there was a loud knock on the front door. Daniel stood up immediately. Lena froze. The kids peeked from the hallway. Daniel walked to the door and opened it slowly. This time, it wasn't hired men. It was an older man in a long coat, standing tall despite the rain. The billionaire grandfather. He looked at Daniel, then passed him into the house. "I need to speak to my daughter-in-law." The man said. His voice wasn't angry. It was heavy. Tired. Almost regretful. Daniel stepped aside, and the moment the old man walked in, everything in the house shifted. Like the story had taken a turn none of them were ready for. The house fell into a strange silence the moment the older man stepped inside. His presence alone seemed to change the air, as if everyone could feel the weight he carried. He stood near the doorway for a few seconds, letting his eyes adjust to the warm, modest space. It was so different from the enormous mansion Lena had once lived in that he didn't seem to know where to begin. Lena stepped forward slowly, her hands trembling. She held Eli behind her, as if shielding him without thinking. The older man's eyes softened a moment he saw the boy. "Eli," he whispered, almost to himself. "You've grown." The boy didn't respond. He held tightly to his mother's hand, unsure of who this man was or whether he should be afraid. Daniel stayed nearby, ready to step in if anything happened. The older man removed his hat and held it against his chest. "I didn't come here to take him away," he said. "I came to see the truth for myself." Lena blinked. "The truth?" she repeated. He nodded. "I saw the videos, the photos, everything that's spreading online right now. I didn't know how bad things had become. I didn't know what my family did to you." His voice cracked slightly at the last sentence. Lena's face tightened. "You never asked," she said quietly. The older man lowered his gaze. He didn't argue. He didn't try to defend himself. Instead, he looked at the small living room, the toys scattered in the corner, the art papers stuck to the fridge. "This is his home now?" he asked softly. "This is a safe place for both of them," Daniel said, stepping forward. "They've been through enough." The old man studied Daniel for a long moment, and instead of showing anger or pride, he showed something unexpected respect. "I can see that," he replied. "I came here expecting a stranger who took them in out of pity. But now that I'm here, I can see why he feels safe." Eli peeked out from behind his mother's arm, his eyes hovering between the two men. Daniel smiled gently at him, encouraging him to stay where he felt comfortable. The older man carefully approached Lena, but not too close. "I failed you," he said. "I let others in the family decide everything. I was grieving my own son, and I shut myself off from the world. And because of that, I didn't see what was happening to you." Lena's lips trembled. She had waited years to hear something like this, yet now that it was happening, she didn't know what to say. "You don't have to forgive me," he continued. "I just need you to know that I'm sorry." The room stayed quiet for several moments. Finally, Lena spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "I just wanted Eli to grow up in peace. I didn't want him to live in fear or grow up thinking he wasn't wanted. That's why I left." The man swallowed hard. "I understand that now, and I won't stand in your way." Daniel watched him closely. He wasn't sure if the older man was being sincere or simply overwhelmed by the public backlash. But the regret in his voice seemed real. The grandfather turned toward Eli again. "May I speak to him?" Lena hesitated, but after a moment, she nodded. The man knelt down slowly so he could look at the boy at eye level. "I'm your grandfather," he said gently. "I know we haven't seen each other in a long time, and I know I should have been there for you. I'm sorry for that." Eli studied him carefully. He didn't move closer, but he didn't pull away either. "You don't have to come with me," the man added softly. "You stay wherever you feel safe. I only wanted to see you and make sure you're all right." The boy looked at Daniel and then back at the older man. After a long pause, he said quietly, "I'm safe here." The grandfather nodded, his eyes moist. "I can see that." They all moved to the living room, sitting down as the older man explained why he came. "I wanted to meet the man who protected my family when I didn't," he said, turning to Daniel. "You stepped in when no one else would. I owe you more than I can say." Daniel shook his head. "I didn't do it for anything in return. I just did what I thought was right." "That is exactly why you deserve my respect," the grandfather replied. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. Before the truth came out, the family had planned to challenge Lena's custody. "Now, after everything that's happened, I want to make something clear." He handed the envelope to Lena, who opened it slowly. Inside were legal documents stating that she had full custody, with no contest or interference from the extended family. In addition, the documents granted her complete control over her late husband's share of the company until Eli was old enough. Lena's eyes widened. "You're giving me everything?" "I'm giving you what you should have had from the beginning," the older man said. "My family wronged you. This is the least I can do to make it right." Lena covered her mouth, tears slipping down her cheeks. Daniel put a hand on her shoulder to steady her. The older man then turned to Daniel again. "I don't want to separate them from you. It's clear both of them have found something here that money cannot buy." Daniel wasn't sure how to respond. He felt a mix of relief and disbelief. As the evening went on, the tension slowly faded. The older man shared stories of his son Lena's late husband, stories that even she hadn't heard before. For the first time, she saw a gentler side of him, one she didn't think existed. Eventually, the man stood up, putting on his coat. "I'll leave now," he said. "But before I go, I want to ask you something, Daniel. Not as someone from a powerful family, but as a grandfather." Daniel waited. "Please keep looking after them," the older man said quietly. "They seem to belong here more than anywhere else." Daniel nodded. "They're part of this home," he replied. "I'll always look out for them." The old man's expression softened with gratitude. "Thank you," he said before stepping out into the night. Lena closed the door gently after him. She leaned her forehead against the wood for a moment, letting out a shaky breath. Daniel approached her. "You okay?" She turned around and wiped her tears. "I think, for the first time in a long time, I am." Eli ran to Daniel, wrapping his small arms around him. "Don't let us go," he whispered. Daniel knelt down and hugged him back. "I won't," he said softly. "You're safe here." When the kids went to bed, Lena stayed behind in the living room. She sat quietly for a while before finally looking at Daniel. "Do you want us to stay?" she asked. Daniel's heart skipped. "I thought you might leave now that everything's settled," he admitted. Lena shook her head slowly. "This house? It feels like home. And you." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "You've been more of a family to us than anyone else." Daniel didn't speak at first. He simply sat beside her, letting the moment settle. Finally, he said, "If you want to stay, then stay. The door is always open for both of you." Lena smiled, a gentle, grateful smile that carried everything she couldn't put into words. That night, as Daniel checked the locks and turned off the lights, he paused for a moment. He looked at the small shoes near the door, the toys on the floor, the extra pair of jackets hanging by the wall. His house wasn't just his anymore. It was a home. A home built out of kindness, courage, and a chance meeting on a rainy night. A home where two families had become one. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt like his life was whole again.